it's kind of like when you go to a wedding and like divorced mom and dad are there and they haven't seen each other since dad walked out. It's weird.
How much do you pay these jabrones to follow you around and make you seem like you're a star? You're not Dana White circa 2009. You shouldn't have your own vlog. No one cares about your opinions on things, okay? I just want to let you know, I don't mean to be mean, but them's the facts.
It's the emotional journey of men being documented. Real talk.
Five, 4, 3, 2.
You know, the fight game is weird. It is, it's unpredictable. It takes you in locations and to places you never thought you'd be. Who would have thought 2 years ago that you and I would be in Florida after a pandemic covering Tyron Woodley boxing Jake Paul, Ariel Helwani, Brian Campbell for the second time, and yet here we are. I didn't know we were going to get here this time of the year, but nice to see you.
Nice
How are
to see you too, Luke. How about this?
Two old
Fuck
veterans,
that guy, though,
you know,
right?
I'll
Yeah.
just be the slimy piece of deli meat holding these two inbreds together, but inbreds.
You are inbred.
That would be, so this is a pregame preview with Ariel. I don't know if you've watched our vast library of these, including
I've never.
Chuck Mindenhall, the great Andreas Hale.
Not familiar.
We only ask two things of you in this,
Mm-hmm.
that you provide real talk, like men do.
Hashtag real talk.
Yes, like men
Are we
do,
just gonna like
okay?
blow right through the stop sign of Luke and I at the same table right now,
Yeah.
hobnobbing
When was
with
the
each
last
other?
time we were at a table together?
Probably May of 2018. My final appearance on the MMA Beat.
That's about
May it
right.
rest in
Mhm.
peace. And then we were mortal enemies, right?
For a while, yes.
And then you got in between and actually picked a
Yes.
side and went against me, stabbed me in the back multiple times.
I did. You know, I was very.
And now here we are. Showtime has actually brought us together
so we
for
can
this
lay
Worlds
down
Collide.
arms. Yes.
The biggest Worlds Collide since, what was it, AAA and WCW back in 1997? You know
Hey,
about
could
that,
you
right?
Put more gross shit on your face?
Yeah, I can't stop staring
you got
at
shit
it.
on your face. Can you?
What kind of shit?
Yeah, you know,
yeah.
normal kind. Just
Also,
like
what's up
flexing.
with the both of you having drinks and not actually offering me a drink?
I think
feel
we
a
did
little-
offer you a drink, and you're like, I'm the
Where's
world's
the
biggest
proof?
partier,
Yeah.
Where's the proof?
and you didn't want
I
anything.
think your words like.
But
dead
in all
balls,
seriousness, it is a strange occasion. It's a strange fight week. It's the rematch between Tyron Woodley and Jake Paul, and we've all spoken to them. You spoke to them, I think, this week or last. We had a little bit of a tete-a-tete yesterday. Very different vibe
Good
than the
French.
first time around. Yes, I'm trying. Very bit of a different vibe though, right? So yesterday, Tyron seemed like, relative to the first time, happy-go-lucky, and Jake seemed eager for the fight, but kind of over this shit. Did
Yeah.
you get a similar read?
I'm actually not ready to talk about the fight just yet, if I may. I remember back in August, you guys put out this sort of like snuff film where you were
Snuff
like,
film?
yes, you were like following me
Are
from
you
behind.
talking about Morning
It was-
Combat's award-winning?
By the way,
award-winning Morning
Mazel
Kombat-
tov.
Yes, only award winners. at
How
this
about
table.
this? Yes, actually,
I mean,
that's
this
right.
is really
this is an award-winning.
This is like when Jordan and Isaiah
Come on,
and Bird
we need
had to all
to-
be on the East All-Stars.
we need to
together.
play this up a little bit. Mazel
Now,
tov,
I want to be clear about that.
congratulations.
Thank you. But the documentaries to which you speak
That
of,
was something.
that's the Brian Campbell masturbation project. So really, your creative concern should be taken to the
I
man
think
himself.
you know there's an argument to be had in Jake.
I'm a fan of it.
The great documentarian.
Yes, there's our
Yeah,
documentary
yeah.
over there.
That your appearance on the fifth one did raise the rent. It produced the highest amount of clicks, but I think critically it may be our best one ever. And maybe
Would you
that's
say that?
because of the real
How many of you guys?
tension,
How many
right?
have you done? How many have you done
Five.
of those? Five.
Five.
We are the
Actually,
award-winning
sorry,
best
sorry.
MMA programming.
Sorry.
Congratulations to you on a
Yeah.
10th consecutive World MMA Awards Best Journalist. So while I'm certainly
11. Sorry, I don't mean to interrupt.
I want to give you that. What the hell happened that first year, 2009?
Uh,
John Morgan was all over your ass.
Yes, but it was 11. Can you please just, for the
11
clip,
11 for the
11.
record, yes.
John Morgan, yes, much respect. I was kind of new to the game, and I was there actually covering
Savor
it.
that flavor, John Morgan, on that blue shirt.
Listen,
you're not tasting that again. It's not
He's the
happening.
man, and I'm very appreciative. Jokes aside,
Mm.
it is cool when the fans vote for you. I mean, we're not going to sit here and pretend like we just won the Nobel Peace Prize or a
Right.
Pulitzer, but
I mean, that ceremony was like a
You were missed.
a redneck prom. It was
Uncle
fantastic.
Jello, Uncle Jello took a couple of shots. at
yeah,
it,
no,
just a
but it's
couple.
all in love. Actually, he asked me for permission beforehand. You always kind of know who's going to win by who shows up. So the moment I saw you guys there in your tuxes,
Well, we felt like we had a chance. You know.
you didn't know beforehand?
Not exactly. No.
I don't
No.
believe
But
that
we
for a
I think
second.
I think
You
we
flew
had
to
an
Las
in-
Vegas?
We had an inkling.
No one flies to be
but we
second.
did not
It was
know.
UFC 269 weekend.
Oh,
to be
did you guys
fair.
go?
He went. I
went.
flew home.
Yeah.
Why? You couldn't be bothered?
I just do better work at home at this point. I don't need to be. I don't need for what I do. I don't need to be there. Like,
How'd they treat you over there?
They treated me great, and
Rolled
it's
out the
been
red
a long
carpet?
time to turn that around in that favor. But
You're
I was
Mr. ESPN.
I was the star of a hit piece, a slasher film.
Oh,
The
that's
4 minute,
right. You were.
They got you too. They didn't get me at all.
Yeah,
couldn't
I was
believe
actually
it.
that was actually the biggest shocker.
Really?
No
I agree.
appearance?
Nothing. I got nothing.
Not a single.
Nothing.
You were in it like 10 times.
I really
Yo,
was
they
the
were like,
star.
yo, fuck
Yeah.
Brian
They were
Campbell.
like, we apologize, but we're gonna need you to fill out these SAG forms afterwards.
Yeah.
They're-
They
Did you
even
get
put you and
royalties?
Josh Gross in there, so I thought for sure I would get lambasted.
I didn't
but
get
no.
I didn't get a lower third though. It was a
Oh,
quick,
I
and it
see.
was also like a total botch job in terms of
Oh,
taking
yeah.
what I
Yeah,
said
yeah,
out of
no, it was
context.
not
They
at
had
all
taken
right, yeah.
comments I made in a column about a different topic
Yeah,
and just
yeah.
applied it there. But that's
That
fine.
video is nowhere to be found, by the way.
We're survivors of that video.
Do you know that?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
That doesn't get talked
We've
about
theorized
enough.
about that.
I dug around on why that got deleted. It's not enough of a story, I think.
Tell us.
Well, I have to get a second source to
Okay,
verify.
fair enough.
So we should trade what we know after.
Fair
the,
enough, fair enough,
Okay,
fair
but
enough.
you're fucking changing.
Sorry,
the
sorry.
The time
I think the
limited,
people
Ariel
want.
Helwani.
You told me friends at a bar.
All right, we
This
are
is friends at a
This is
bar.
friends
Friends at a bar. Fair enough. In
All
that
right.
sense,
And
of
I
going
got
back.
a pina colada.
Yeah, why don't you put more milk in
Virgin
your
or
booze?
non-virgin?
Oh, well, he is a virgin. I mean, look at this fucking zero. But
I
beyond
did
that.
have the three.
I wasn't talking about the drink.
Okay, the fight week vibe.
Yes,
You feel like
fight
it's a bit
week.
different?
Okay, so in all honesty, I got here this morning, so
Right.
you would have a better sense than I. But I will talk about the build-up. Yeah, of course it's a little different. I think there were a lot of questions about Woodley, how he would look in a boxing match. Just the state of his career. Does he pull the trigger? Does he not? Is he comfortable as a boxer? Is he not? Jake Paul, toughest test. And I think the Tommy Fury fight brought this new level of interest, this new angle, this new story, younger guy, boxer, the family. So I think it took a moment for people to be like, okay, we're going to do this again. I think the most compelling part of this fight, correct me if you feel otherwise, there's an immense amount of pressure on Woodley's shoulders. Like, hey, you got out of Cleveland with your legacy relatively intact.
Mm-hmm.
I think Ben Askren's legacy took a massive hit back in April. I think the way he showed up, the way he got knocked out, it's not going to be item number one when they write his bio, but I think people view Ben Askren a little differently. I think Woodley got out relatively intact. If you lose to Jake Paul again, and oh, by the way, if you get knocked out by Jake Paul this time around, which I don't think is a crazy thing, that's a real
Do you
big
think there's
hit.
more pressure on
Absolutely.
Tyron? Because I made
Not
the
even
same
close.
case that I think you can make an equal argument. I think Jake realizes that was closer than it should have been the first time around. I think Tyron was better in the first fight than Jake expected. Jake, as we all kind of talk about, kind of started circling backwards after the power hit in round 4. I think Jake has just as much pressure because a loss is disastrous to this bubble he's created.
Yeah, because he could just say, like, I beat this guy once already.
I mean,
Okay, we'll
there's
run it back
ways
a
to
third
repair
time.
it. Connor has repaired it very quickly in no time. But I wonder if there's just as much pressure on both, and that's why they're not trash talking each other as much as they're just intense because they got to win this. They got a second chance here.
Okay, how about this theory? The moment the fight Jake Paul loses, right? When he loses his first fight, does he ever fight again?
Probably, but not too long after that. I think the big mistake I made covering Kimbo Slice was I thought when that light went out that my whole lives went out.
Yeah.
But it didn't happen. Instead, even after Kimbo died, it took some changes and some real buildups of resurrection. And Kimbo's obviously quite different than Jake Paul, but I just mean to say attachment to what he was doing lingered for a very long time. Jake might have some of that where he could potentially eke out a situation where if he had the right opponent, I think
Right.
maybe it could still work. But to your point, like in what he was saying, I do think that there's obviously pressure on Tyron to do just more than he did last time. But also with Jake, man, like I have a feeling there's no denying after Cleveland. I think we could all look back and be like, wow, those guys sold that fight masterfully, right? They
Especially
really
fight
did.
week, I thought they really did a great job.
100%. And that sit down you did with them, it was all those pieces were integral to get to where it was. And then the fight was like, there wasn't much to it.
I disagree. I thought the fight was good. I thought the fight was good. I mean, obviously it's not Volkanovski or Ortega, but I thought it was compelling. Like I was locked in the whole
There was
time.
drama.
Right?
They are well-matched rivals, but I said this before, this is no news, but in 7 of the 8 rounds, Woodley landed 1 jab.
I know that's the problem.
And in
let
the
me
case
ask
of
you-
and
That's the
in the
problem.
case of Jake Paul, he got rocked. It's like, dude, on some level, we know that they can sell and that there's a market for this, clearly.
Right.
How long we'll be there, I guess we'll see. But on some level, in a main event capacity, these YouTube fights, whatever you want to call them, the celebrity side of boxing, it has to deliver at the ring. And the one with Askren was like, it was a knockout, but it was short. The Robinson thing was on Triller. It was fun.
Right.
But you've elevated to a main event. It's time. It doesn't have to be the world's best fight, but it's got to be a little bit more action-packed than it was.
And I think that's what both of them get a second chance at. But I want to ask you to put the bow on the first fight in terms of what we learned and what happened. What is the number one reason why Tyron Woodley did not throw enough when we saw in round 4 the opening that if he put that kind of pressure on, he could maybe get Jake out?
I'll tell you the number one reason. The number one reason is right here. I mean, if you were surprised by Tyron Woodley's game plan, if you were surprised by his technique, if you were surprised by his activity, you didn't watch Usman, you didn't watch Covington, you didn't watch Gilbert Burns. Okay, maybe you thought Vicente Luque would come out, I mean, him in the Vicente Luque fight where he kind of threw caution to the wind.
Yeah.
But that has been the problem since 2018. For whatever reason, he is stuck in neutral. He does not take it to that other gear. What happened when he took it to that other gear? He gets finished by Vicente Luque. And so what I said before the fight was, if we thought that he was tentative in his MMA fights, just wait until he makes his pro boxing debut. He doesn't know how to box. He is not a boxer, right? He has never done this before. He had great success with that right hand when people thought he would be shooting on them, and then he would catch them with that power right hand. And so I was not surprised by any of it. In fact, I was surprised by the 4th round when he actually piled it on. And yes, he didn't go for the finish. He says now, his shoulder was, but whatever.
He's had a lot of excuses this week. That's the one thing I'll point back at him. And
Jake?
Say, no, Tyron.
But you know what I'm saying?
The excuses aren't always matching up in terms of why.
I just hope for his sake, how long can you leave a fight and say, man, I should have thrown more.
Yeah.
I should have been more active. For his sake, for his legacy's sake, for the end of his career's sake, if he wants to keep fighting, if he wants to be a draw, if he wants to fight Dan Hardy, if that's a real thing, he's got to throw more. To your point, he's got to be more active. He's got to put himself in a position to win a fight and also to take some damage, because that's what people want to see.
And Dan was calling him, and Dan's not the first one to do this, but Dan was taunting him to get a fight. Was calling him the frozen one, as I'm sure you
It's a real thing, that, by the way, that fight.
What do you mean?
That fight is a real thing in March.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I don't know if this changes it now if he loses, but that was a real thing.
For sure. So, but I just mean to get that fight the way Dan did it was just going after the fact that he did nothing with it. I just don't know how much longer. I mean, and the other part too is we're saying, oh, it's in his head, but is it correctable? Is it? And I mean this. Tyron Woodley is one of the best welterweights to ever do it, but it is at least worth asking out loud. Asking, is he washed? Is this just a point where he can't come back from? Because while he had a decorated career and he was a good athlete, is he just on the other side of that now? And he's trying to manufacture and pull back into it. It might be too little, too late. I guess we'll have to see. I don't really know. I'm not declaring to you that to be true, but you can't
there's a
dismiss
case to be made. He's getting up there in age. I mean, he is, he's GSP's age almost, right? And we think of GSP as a guy who, fought so long ago. I think that the interesting part of what's happened to Woodley is he doesn't take a ton of damage. Usman didn't beat him up per se. He dominated him, but it's not like he's getting cut up and beat up and knocked down and knocked out, and it's getting uncomfortable watching him. The only part that I would argue is uncomfortable is the fact that he isn't as active as he once was, right,
so
with his strikes.
No excuses for him in this one.
No.
Absolutely no excuses.
It's mental. It's all mental. And
Can
then
that be fixed? That's the key
that's
question.
I don't
at
know
this
if it could
point.
be fixed. And honestly, again, we're keeping it real here. I had him on my show on Monday, and he joined the show. He was with his kids in the car, but then he went somewhere that looked like it was some sort of set. And so you wonder.
He told us he was filming a TV show.
Yes.
Not a great situation to win a
Now
combat sports
you
fight.
have to give him a pass because he wasn't scheduled to fight this weekend.
Of
But
course.
is it possible that maybe, the filming can stop for the 2 weeks? I don't know. I don't know what kind of role he has. I don't know what kind of say. But that does give me some pause. He says he's been training, but have you really been training? So, look, I'm not trying to sell the fight, but I do have some concerns in terms of how, if he was at his best, he took that first fight seriously. I think we could all agree on that. He took it seriously.
Yes.
Short notice, doing other stuff, distractions, state of his
That
career.
could make him just as dangerous.
It could make him
because
more dangerous.
just
He could do the
throws
Luque
If
thing
he's
again
too
because
focused,
he has no,
well,
he has
think
no
about it.
energy.
If he's too focused, if he had the full
Maybe.
camp, he could talk himself out of it, which we've seen at times.
Oh, I know
before.
what you're saying.
Maybe
You're saying
distraction
Bisping Rockhold. This is Bisping Rockhold.
A little bit.
Bisping Rockhold.
His
Bisping was filming a movie in Toronto
yes.
when he got. That's you know what? Now I know why they call you BC. Now I know.
The American Alpha is what
Yeah.
they call me later.
It's actually
the
a great.
American Alpha has to order his pad thai just medium spicy or he can't sleep.
Well,
at night.
some cities
Use that.
number 2 level spice is very intense. So,
not
you know what
many.
I mean, just.
And by the way, there's a lot of similarities. 2 weeks notice, Bisping Rockhold. Are we going to sit here and compare Rockhold back
Although
then
Rockhold
to
had
Jake Paul?
finished Bisping with a one-arm guillotine the first time they fought.
Okay.
he kicked the shit out of him. But
He was
So
also
was it
the
close?
undisputed
But I
middleweight
wanna talk
champion of the
about-
world
He
who
was.
just
I want to talk
killed
about Jake,
Chris Weidman.
meaning I think there's a little bit more pressure on Jake. You can make the same argument about Tyron and you did. Was Jake exposed at all? Not in terms of what we expected. He was only in his 4th fight when he fought Tyron on August 29th. But was he exposed to himself at all, do you think? Where he was like, man, this is harder than I thought it would be. You know, the first potential of gassing out, the first potential of having, getting hit back into the ropes and taking on some damage. Do you think that was a lateral step in the way that he finished that and held on for the split decision, or a step back from what he was looking at?
Quick time out. Can I just say, I love your shirt.
I just
It's
hope
a
I don't get
fantastic-
Don't feed.
It's a fantastic shirt. Where's it from? Can you give
a
me?
van down by the river.
I think I
it's-
bought it at a mall in Puerto Rico.
It's very Florida.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Is that why
I
you?
was hoping that the schmo wasn't going to,
No.
This is a schmo-like outfit, but I
Seersucker? What is that?
More like a schmuck.
It's great. By the way, I just
we
want to
try
give.
to mix it up for the environment. I don't know if you saw Luke in Miami. He did wear pink pants.
No, I don't watch any of your stuff.
That's
If I'm
that's
being
fine.
honest.
probably a
It's-
good
You
idea.
and my family.
I
it's
just,
the
you
same.
know.
So
You-
back to Jake's
yes.
stocks.
So,
Jake's
so
stock at the moment as a
I actually strongly disagree with your sentiment.
Okay.
My respect for Jake grew infinitely after that fight. He took his best punch. He weathered the storm. He went at rounds. Don't forget, Tommy Fury was about to fight Anthony Taylor on that card, right? Anthony Taylor's like a 145er, a 155er at best.
And an MMA fighter.
Yeah. Do you remember the night before the weigh-ins, the London Commission or the British Boxing Commission
Yeah, it's made it a 4-round fight.
changed it because they said Tommy Fury didn't have enough experience.
Yeah, he was like 3 weight classes bigger than Jake.
Yes,
Yeah.
and less fights than Jake Paul, who just went 8 rounds with a former UFC champion. How do you not leave that fight and say, all right, Jake, you showed us the cardio, you showed us that you could weather a storm, you could take the guy's best punch. Like, I didn't, other than the fact that he didn't finish him, I thought, with all due respect to Tyron, he won that fight, right? I thought he won that fight, Jake did, yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
I don't know how you could not respect, like, that was the fight where I was like, this dude's a fighter, I don't want to hear it anymore. I don't care if he came from YouTube, I don't care if he came from Disney, I don't care if he came, this dude is a fighter because he is stepping through the ropes, he's going through a full training camp, and he's taking shots.
I'm not so sure. I mean, I'm halfway there. I'll say this. Here's where I'm at. For sure where I'm at. He's a very gifted promoter. Very gifted. Like, naturally good,
You
self-promoter.
can't call him a fighter?
I can... You ask... I'm not sure what you mean by that. Like, are you asking me to
He
say...
fights for a living at the moment. He fought 4 times in the past year.
But not in the way that other fighters do.
But there's different levels of fighting.
100%.
Right?
Here's the thing where I'm at. You're asking me to call him a fighter. It's like, on some level, this is quite clearly true. Right? He is doing the things you say, and I've watched some of them, and he's training, and like, there's a lot of third-party validation around him with BJ Flores and everybody else that it makes you to believe, like, I respect what he's doing as a journey. But I brought this up with BC before. I covered a guy, and that was the heavyweight ranks, but he was an All-American linebacker at the University of Michigan State, Seth Mitchell. Now, it was a heavyweight division. This was around 2011 or so. And he got to boxing late.
Was this UWC?
No. This was he fought on the Kahn and Peterson card.
Okay.
And he eventually started knocking the big power, athletic guy, right? All-American linebacker, Division I school. And he got about 20 fights in or so, and then they had to make him fight real guys, and the whole shit fell apart.
Sure.
Instantly. I'm not saying that he has to follow that because Seth Mitchell didn't have the same kind of popularity, but rather it's like the dudes who do this, who are going to do this and only this, they've got 20 years on Jake Paul. Like they've been boxing since they were 7.
Sure.
They're not peers. They're not peers. It's a different thing.
But would you say the same about an amateur who's 3-0? An amateur is still...
Sort of. It sounds like I'm begrudging Jake for skipping the queue. I'm not. Like, he should get the paydays that he earns. He promotes half of these. He controls half the
Sure.
show. He's entitled to all the receipts, and I want to have a conversation about that in terms of where it goes. But it's like, are you asking me to confer the same amount of respect on him as I do someone else?
Canelo? No, of course not.
No, not Canelo, but like even someone else at like 7, 10-0, who's eating shit and poor in gyms and like.
I mean, I feel like he's
They're
putting
not-
in the work, right?
Well, it's a different. It's
I
a
respect the
different
work,
lane.
but it's
Yeah.
not the same. It's just not the
It's
same.
a different lane. It's a different set of opponents. He's not necessarily trying, although he's saying the right thing and saying I'm taking this serious. Jake's not trying to appear in the cruiserweight top 10 rankings by next year. Like that's not.
Okay, but
the
here's what he
actual
is
goal.
trying to do. He said something on the All Access, and we asked him about it yesterday. He actually got a little bit bitter with us. One thing he said that I would like to see where you react to is he thinks that when his boxing run is over, whenever that may be, he'll be able to pull $250 million from the game. I actually don't think that's crazy.
Combined?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
all the purses, he can pull 250. I don't think that's crazy.
I don't think it's crazy.
But he was like, it also includes Canelo. So where do you think, how far can he actually go in terms of realistic possibilities? What kind of money?
Man.
possible?
Well, here's the beauty of being a boxer, right? In 2021, 2022, like he's his own promoter, right?
Yep.
And he gets a fair share of that pie. There's a reason why all these people are going over to boxing. You know, I love when people say, this is an indication that boxing is dead. This right here.
I know, they're
no,
so wrong.
this is actually an indication that boxing is alive and well, that there's more money to be made in this sport than any other combat sport, right? Because if it was the case in MMA, he would be going to MMA. This is a guy who has a wrestling background. This is actually the perfect example. Is Darren Williams and Frank Gore going to MMA, or are they going to boxing, right? Now, those guys don't need the money. They're doing pretty damn well for themselves post
It
playing.
says a lot that one guy owns an MMA gym.
Yes.
He's like, fuck that, I'm going to box.
Yes,
instead.
exactly. That cracks me up. Don't get me started on the whole boxing is dead, boxing is boring. Boxing, it's more fun now and more interesting now. It's like every single weekend on some kind of streaming platform or some kind of network, there's a great boxing card on.
Totally true.
Every single
It was a
weekend.
great calendar year for the sport.
Every weekend, there's something that I'm like, oh, it's 4 o'clock in Liverpool. I need to be watching Katie Taylor or Conor. It doesn't end. Anyway, so. Of course, you can't say that he is on the verge of fighting a Canelo. You can't say that he is even in the conversation of a Terrence Crawford or a Ryan Garcia or someone like that. But what he has done, and I also think we were kind of talking about this off camera, the work that his manager, consultant, co-founder of MVP, Nikisa Badarian, does with him, because of his intricate knowledge of the UFC and how they would build up fighters and fights, is so underrated.
No one talks about that Nikisa's got
great
this
point.
legitimate
Yes.
UFC CFO background.
CFO, the man was in the room when they sold for $4.025 billion.
Right.
He was in the room when the Reebok deal was struck. Regardless of what we think about that, like the guy was in the room.
there,
He was in
yes.
the war room. So
He's used dude wipes.
I don't know about that. Listen, the point is, look at what he's doing. Jake Paul, kids love him or know of him, and he's polarizing all that. He's not going after boxers per se. Who's he talk about? He talks about Tyron, he talks about Nate, he talks about Conor. At the end,
in his lane at the end of the day.
but it's a brilliant thing
smart.
because what's cooler among kids right now? What's cooler, MMA or boxing?
Kids,
MMA.
it seems MMA.
Exactly.
Which wasn't the case when we came up.
But isn't that the brilliance?
Okay, but we
he's
had
going
an
to the
issue-
sport where he can make more money and he's drawing out the fighters that the kids
it's
know.
a brilliant
It's a
game
brilliant
plan.
thing.
I'm going to take
Yes.
underpaid MMA fighters
Yes.
in a sport where they're not very good at. I'm just good enough to beat them and then use all their
And I'm
popularity.
bigger, I'm
Yeah,
younger.
it's
I'm
genius.
less washed. It's brilliant, and we've been behind that, saying that he's even funny in the way he's executing some of this corny type comedy. But when it goes back to the escalation of opponents and all that,
Well, dude, don't you think, Jose, if he fought Nate Diaz,
Yeah.
let's just
would be
imagine
gigantic.
a world. Nate Diaz is here, by the way.
Yes.
Does that sell?
No coincidence, by the way, that they put Chris Avila on this
course,
card.
of course.
Smart. Again, that's a UFC model right there.
1.5 mil
Oh,
pay-per-view
God.
buys?
well, if he met, well, that's why I was
Assuming that
getting
Nate
to the
promoted
Canelo
it as
comment.
reasonably well as Tyron
Yeah.
did, I'll give Tyron his credit. He really did a great job. Assuming he does that kind of level of effort, I don't think 1.5 is in any way unreasonable.
Well, yes, but there's a little like asterisk thing that I have to
Okay.
put, and it's what does Nate's last UFC fight look like? If we're gonna play the scenario
okay,
that Nate,
so he's declined Chimaev.
Yeah.
So what do you think they do with him?
well, it's interesting days with Dustin Poirier.
They might
The
do
Dustin-
the old. I'll give you Poirier, but you got to sign the new deal right now. Right?
Well, there's that. There's a couple things. First of all, they legitimately, I spoke to both of them. So we're taping this on a Thursday. I hope I'm not dating us.
It's fine.
But I spoke to them on a Wednesday night, and they both said, like, we will fight on that Anaheim card, no questions asked.
Nate and Dustin?
Yes.
Okay.
Here's the problem. Francis Ngannou's on that card. They're not exactly on the same page as Mr. Francis. Francis stands to gain a lot of money if Nate Diaz and Dustin Poirier are added to that card because of pay-per-view points, right? I think Francis actually, and of course, I have all the respect. Total side note, the mishandling of Francis Ngannou's career might be one of the greatest blunders in UFC history, at least
Facts.
recently.
Yeah.
This man is straight out of a comic book.
Yep.
He should be one of the biggest stars. Look at what happened. Look at George Kambosos, goes into MSG, shocks the world, and I can't put on any sort of combat sports programming and not see George Kambosos there,
he was
the
on
promotion.
Rogan.
Rode
He
the
was on
wave
Rogan.
Yes,
perfectly.
the way his
Yeah.
they reached out to me. I'm not a boxing guy per se, and they're like, "Can we have him on the show on the MMA Hour on Monday?" I was like, "Wow, you guys are smart. Cool, get him into." What have we heard from Francis since he knocked out Stipe? Griping, fighting, under promoting, interim. It's crazy to me that they're doing this to this guy, and so I think that. Sorry for going on a tangent, but I feel like because he's on that card, they're not going to put that fight there. But it could get really interesting if they could agree to a fight between Dustin Poirier and Nathan Diaz within the maybe next couple months. And now all of a sudden you have a situation where either they say to, I think this could happen. All right, Nate, we'll give you this fight as your last fight. If you win, we have to exclusively negotiate and we're going to try to make it right. If you lose, God bless, we'll see you, we'll see you next, lifetime. I think that could happen. I think there could be a scenario where they roll the dice as well with Nate and just kind of hope that maybe he either wins and makes a deal or loses, looks bad, and diminishes his star power. This could happen. Everything is on the table.
Let's say so he goes through the exclusive negotiating thing, and now he's open to all promoters.
Yeah.
If he got an offer to fight Jake Paul, they would have to match that?
No, like once that window is over.
Oh, you just think he moves on?
Yeah.
So you think there's 0% of a possibility of Dana co-promoting Jake versus...
They don't need the money, dude. UFC is fucking raking in money.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh,
It's affecting how
2021,
aggressive they
great
are
point.
with certain things.
Great point. Conor, one of the greatest traits that Conor possessed, in addition to his fighting skills and promotion, timing. Conor's timing was impeccable. The reason why they pushed to have him on the MSG card was because they knew they had just sold the company and they needed that big MSG card with Conor on it. The reason why they pushed to do the Mayweather fight is because they had just bought the company, right? And they, you know what I mean?
Rousey was gone. They needed that.
They needed that big pay. They don't necessarily need it, but I will never say 0%. Yeah. We all said 0% for Mayweather, and we know what happened. We didn't read the tea leaves.
Jake's got to continue to go upward, not just upward with a decision victory.
But dude,
he's got to finish Woodley to really raise the.
Okay, but if he finishes,
I think a decision's enough.
Say again?
I think a decision's enough.
Convincing one.
It's the exact same fight as last time.
Okay, but under the grounds of
7-1, 6-2.
But
I just feel like at some point you keep turning in these duds that are over promoted.
What duds? It's just one decision.
Okay, but then the Logan Paul versus Mayweather fight was.
What, you're gonna penalize him for his brother's fight?
Well, it's all connected in the public eye. If you're a casual,
that's right.
Just dropping
fair
in,
or not fair.
Is it unfair that I actually think Jake Paul is infinitely more talented than his brother?
No, I think he's more talented than his brother.
And I feel a lot more comfortable calling Jake a fighter as opposed to his brother.
100%.
Brother,
I've said this. I've said
they
this.
will?
I've
Okay.
said this. If Diaz ends up fighting Jake Paul in a boxing match, I would probably favor Nate Diaz, to be fair. But I think that is a.
Well, wait.
That we have to see. Probably the same one.
Would be interesting though. I think it adds to it.
I actually feel like Jake would. I don't think it's automatic Jake loses. It might be likely that Nate wins. I don't think it's automatic Jake loses.
All right, so
that's
how
fair.
I started the arc of this conversation, and it just took me a while and I never got there, was to say,
Sorry.
for everything great that Jake's doing, he won't stop using Canelo's voice. And that's where he got a little testy with us, where we're saying, dude, really, Canelo? And he's like, why can't I? Why can't I if I'm the number 2 earner and Canelo's the number 1 in this game? And to be fair, Jake's disrupted the market to get to that point, if all the numbers are true. He just says that should be automatic. Number 1 and 2 biggest stars in the game should be fighting. But
we've talked about this. We can buy that he'll fight Nate. We can buy that he'll box Conor. We can buy that strange things
even
can happen.
Anderson Silva, which I think
Anderson
he should get
Silva,
worked in
although
that.
I've told you he has a huge asking price, so it's a thing. But dude, Canelo is literally going to get paid shit tons of money no matter what he does, and he is right now. We'll see where he is in a few years.
Yeah.
But right now, he is quite clearly trophy hunting. Jake Paul, in that sense, is no trophy. In that sense,
He's a payday.
dude, Canelo just made $50 million.
Sure.
He's not suffering.
I am not absolutely, but I am not willing to sit here and say that Canelo, who by the way is now working with Showtime.
Yeah, but he blew off Jorge Masvidal. He blew off Kamaru Usman. Why wouldn't he blow off?
What's the
Jake
upside?
Paul?
Well, the other thing is like, I actually feel like there's a better chance, as crazy as it sounds, that Canelo knows more about Jake Paul than he does Masvidal and Usman.
Probably
Certainly
true.
Usman.
Probably true.
With all due respect.
Yeah, probably true.
And he also probably knows that it's going to be a big headache to co-promote with the UFC and all that stuff. He doesn't have to necessarily do that. He'll have to co-promote with MVP, but they're all under the same umbrella.
Right.
In a world where Logan Paul fought Floyd Mayweather, exhibition
Which is
or not,
crazy that it ever happened.
Yeah. Who's to say that these two guys who actually weigh sort of around the same
Okay, but I want you to get in Jake's
can't
head,
fight?
though.
Yeah.
Is it just because this is the most amount of money he believes he can make? I think I can argue that a Conor boxing match, which is not easy to make under any
I'm not even
circumstance,
sure. I'm not
would
sure
do-
Jake Paul versus Canelo is bigger than Jake Paul versus Conor. I actually think Jake Paul versus Conor
So
is
what's
bigger.
Jake
I
Paul?
agree,
Jake
'cause it
Paul's
would be
crazy like
sold
a fox.
more.
Let's give him that credit. When he
has the
tries-
chutzpah. He has the chutzpah
mixed
to ask
with
for
a-
these
with a
things, to dream of
long-range
these
plan.
things.
Every time he opens his mouth, it seems he's connecting the dots. So let's give him that credit. What is in it for him besides a loss and a big payday against Canelo?
Isn't it the payday? Isn't that enough?
I guess it would.
He
depend
wants
on
to
the
get to
payday.
that 250.
Yeah, that 250 mil.
That's true.
Also, again, these two guys, these two brothers, have the audacity to dream of these things and say, yeah, I want to do that. Again, it kind of reminds me, and I know everyone's like, they're probably pissed off at us enough for just talking about him in glowing terms like this or somewhat positive terms, but it does remind me of Conor in a sense. Back in 2016, he's like, yeah, I'm going to fight Floyd Mayweather. And we all were like, what? You're not fighting Floyd. This is the most ridiculous
fair.
thing. And so if you have the audacity in the fight game to throw things out there and repeat them enough and to bang that drum enough, and of course you have to win along the way, crazy crap happens.
Juliana Pena showed us that. Okay.
Yeah,
All right,
I mean,
crazy
by
shit
the way,
happens.
I mean that's on a much smaller scale. But I remember talking to Juliana Pena in March. I remember her coach Rick Little saying, "Can you please talk to Juliana? We really want to get that Amanda fight." And I was like, "Yeah, sure. I like talking to Juliana." And she cut one of the all-time great promos. And I remember all the comments. You can still see the tweet up. Were like, "Delusional, crazy. You're an idiot." And look where we're standing.
You're an idiot until you're a genius.
Yes.
People said the same thing about the Best MMA Programming Award as well.
That was crazy and probably
We
rigged.
did raise that shit.
I'm
up,
not
you
sure
know.
what was more rigged, the 2020 election or that.
Well, the people, at the end, the people spoke, and they spoke loudly. I wanted to go shoulder to shoulder with my peers in this game.
Can we talk about the
with
fact that
with
you went up
DC.
against? Wait, can we talk
now,
about
Rogan? I have to bend over a little bit. I wanted to go shoulder.
Wait, but first of all, you went up against a DC show with myself that no longer exists.
We don't make those rules.
I'm just saying.
Yeah.
I mean, it hasn't been on for 6 months. A.
Fair.
B. The Joe Rogan MMA show. I don't even know what that is. Is that like a thing?
I haven't seen it before.
I think
Okay.
I was on it.
All right. Well, like, what is that? Like is
I've
it,
never heard my name.
What is it
on
like?
that show.
Shoulder
That's what you're
programming?
wondering.
What is it?
I think there was a while where he was doing like his regular show, and then he would have occasional MMA guests on, but it seemed like it all blended at this
Yeah,
point.
okay, it's nonsense. Then we got what? Contender
White.
Series?
Yeah, it was
Contender
Dana
Series
White.
is an event. Like, it's not a show. It's like an event. It's like a fight night.
So you're saying, like, in retrospect, this
There was no
actually-
competition. It was totally rigged for you guys.
Yeah.
How much did you
Just
pay
ESPN
fighters
and
only?
UFC programming,
Well, and then what was the last one?
Embedded.
Who watches Embedded? I mean,
A lot
all
of
those
people.
all those
A lot
numbers
of
are
donks,
juice.
a lot of juggalos.
I mean,
A
those.
couple million people can't be wrong. On
I don't
that one,
listen.
but,
I don't mean to go below
Listen,
the belt
you sound
here,
very
but
much
those
like
numbers
you
are
sound.
juice.
Listen, you sound like my
Did you
family.
catch that
I'm
one?
not a
Or
numbers guy,
did you
but,
catch that one?
Yeah, I heard it both ways.
I hope both of you contract COVID. You're just the worst. You're the
We are
worst
in
people in
Florida.
America.
I don't think they have.
Please
too.
don't say that.
Okay, I don't wish that. I'm not very serious. All right. In all seriousness, though,
I'm gonna go take a shower in Purell.
I
After
don't
this.
mind that. How seriously? Like, talk to me about 2022. What does this space look like? Do you think?
Which space?
Crossover.
The one we're in, this crossover
circus.
world.
You and I? Us?
No, well,
Oh.
that too. That too. But I mean,
Okay.
the Jake Paul thing. He won't be the only one. There's
There's old guys coming back. It's
Yeah.
all together. BKFC,
fun.
I
How do you
put in
feel
that.
about it?
Triller, I put in that. It's all one
I'm not a
umbrella.
huge BK guy. Is that wrong of me to say?
No, I don't think it's necessarily wrong. I don't have a firm opinion about it,
Yeah.
but there's a lot of.
Can I tell you? I hate to say it. I kind of like Triad. I kind of enjoyed it. Is that bad?
It wasn't bad. I gotta
It was
say that.
actually
It
kind of
wasn't
fun. Now I
was
will say, like,
okay.
the production, like, it's just like it drags too long, and I don't need the other stuff. The whole MMA versus boxing was like Rampage and Briggs. They're kind of
It was a
entertaining.
perfect storm with those guys as coaches. The fights turned out good. It was better than anything else they did. I actually think BKFC should be. They're the ones that should have the biggest.
I know, but
problem
without Metallica, is anyone in that audience?
Metallica's an investor now, Triller.
Yeah.
Oh, are they really? What are
And-
they investing? 500,000? I mean, nothing.
And also, like, doing it in a baseball stadium seems just silly. Man, I
Hard
don't
to
know.
say, right?
Well,
Unpredictable.
I will say, like, combat sports is fun right now.
It is.
And don't even get me started. We can have a whole separate conversation on pro wrestling, which
Probably
you
could,
clearly aren't a
We
fan
could.
of
We'd have to
anymore.
do
You
it
just
alone,
broke the news to me.
Well,
but
I've taken an extended time off, and it's Vince McMahon's
That's-
fault. It's-
why is it Vince McMahon's fault?
Because he drove me to this point by.
What
by
about AEW?
underperforming and
AEW?
It's been wonderful, but I got to take a
Fair enough.
rest now.
Point is,
like GSP, I had to walk away after Hendricks.
well, actually, to his point, there's a lot. There's a lot on TV right now or on platforms. Whether you're, I mean, it's hard enough to be an MMA and boxing fan if you're a pro wrestling fan as well. There's a lot. I think it's just, it's really, really fun. Of course, whatever we say right now can be dramatically different come Saturday night if Jake loses. Like, if
Right.
Jake gets knocked out, everything changes.
There's a trilogy, right? You think so? If it's knocked out, hard to say, probably.
He's going to take some time off. By the way, have you noticed this? Every time I listen to a Jake Paul interview, or if I talk to him myself, do you notice that he always mentions that he, like, put his life on hold and he hasn't been to the dentist? Do you notice that he always mentions the dentist? Did he mention that to you guys yesterday?
Didn't, actually,
He
no.
always talks about, I need to go to the dentist. He said that in the ring in August. Every interview he goes, I need to go to the dentist. And I'm like, you could just, like, book an appointment and do it for 30, like, you
Yeah,
don't.
get on ZocDoc, guy.
Come on.
You probably get
I
Darren Stewart
guarantee
on
you,
Cameo,
at some point between now and Saturday, mark my words, he will mention the dentist.
Okay,
It
all right.
seems to
I'm
be a
I'm
thing.
looking for it.
And when I say it, I want you guys to think of me.
All right.
That being said, I feel like it's a really interesting time. I actually feel like MMA, if we're going to talk quickly about MMA, like Kevin Lee going to Eagle FC and all these different promotions, PFL.
Changing divisions, 165, 175.
That's
Future
fun.
world champion Kevin Lee. Yeah.
Kayla Harrison, free agent. Connor, 2 fights left on his deal. Nate, 1 fight left on his deal. Like, I feel like we're about to enter into, and as journalists, I feel really lucky that we get to cover all of this. And we're talking about Katie Taylor and Amanda Serrano, 2 women headlining MSG. How fun is that?
Yep.
We're talking about these big boxing matches. We're talking about all these different networks involved. Man, I think Bellator had a great end to their year.
PFL had a great year, man.
PFL
to your
arguably
point-
had a better year than Bellator.
I think they did. And also, what I would say is, to your point, that there's this. I don't like every version of it, but there is this entrepreneurial spirit with rules innovation.
Yeah.
Like, hey, let's get these people from, like, MMA fighters and boxers realize there's money to be made off of each other, so they're trying all
Too many
these
of these
different
cages
things.
are dumb. Let's get a really smart cage in here.
Yeah, like the smart
Right,
cage.
yeah, yeah.
I'm like, well, what is so smart about your PFL cage? You're gonna call me an Uber home?
What's the
Can I
deal?
Listen,
Alexa
they're
some fucking
trying.
gifts?
I wasn't a fan of the league format, and I don't think I'm not a fan of the WFL thing that they're trying to do. But PFL has done a good enough job. Here's the name of the game. Back in the day, Scott Coker did a great thing where he was like, all right, how am I going to be different than the UFC? I'm going to have women. That's the one thing they didn't have. Now the UFC has women. So how do you differentiate yourself? PFL's trying. Eagle trying with 165 and 175. You need
Well,
something.
good thing they got Bigfoot out of there, okay? Can we
Yes,
say
that was a
life
little
here?
uncomfortable. But you have to be a little bit different. You have to give fans a reason
Yeah.
to not watch the cavalcade of UFC events. And please, if we could just ask one thing to the MMA gods, no more Apex shows. I can't handle another Saturday night at the
Oh,
Apex.
I had some
Oh,
conversations.
get
We got
ready for
plenty of
2022.
Apex
yeah.
We're
coming
going to
your
have
way.
plenty of shows.
There's
there.
great irony, by the
Helwani.
way.
I talked to some folks about that.
Yeah, there's great irony, by the way, of the ones like, we need to get back out there. We need to get back out there. And they're the last ones still at the Apex.
It's so weird to watch every other sport be back in, mostly full arenas.
Right.
And the
Hopefully that
UFC
continues.
is the last
Yes.
one holding, because they're just
Hey,
so
Paul
comfortable.
Anka.
They're
Well,
just so
some
comfortable.
really
No,
good cage
also,
side seats,
also, they're making a ton of money.
That's what I mean. Like, they don't.
Yeah.
Before they kind of had to hustle a little bit to make that kind of money. Now it's just happening.
It's great. They've got their own little world there. They got the hotel. They got they're actually not just saving money. They're making a ton more by not having to travel to Greenville and to Boston and to all these other random places.
Speaking of big time.
But anyway, the point being is
statements,
2022. It could be.
It's
a
gonna
big
be great,
easier.
yeah.
Style choices like Thug Rose going to the short hair, it became iconic.
AKA
You've had
Thug
the
Nose.
short hair look,
Yeah.
the Thug Nose look for many years, but
Yeah.
I don't remember what feature someone did on you, an interview, and it had some college pics.
Yeah.
Bro, you had a
A
fro,
fro, yeah.
in Syracuse, New York. What is stopping you from ever bringing
Yeah,
back,
why not bring that back?
even part of that to your current look?
It's a lot of
I
work.
feel like curly hair is like it's back in again.
Is it back in?
Yeah.
Man, it's a lot of work. And
How big of a fro can you get?
it was actually huge. That I think there's one picture of me that was in that thing, and that was probably like a year of not cutting it once. And I think I went 2 years before I cut it. Actually, kind of a cool story. I was actually depressed at Syracuse, and I didn't want to cut my
Yeah,
hair.
sounds like a great story. Keep
Well,
going.
I was depressed, didn't want to cut my hair, was sort of revolting against this idea that if you want to be a broadcast journalist, you have to look a certain way, because my professors kept telling me, you're never going to get a job in Wichita if you look like that. And I was like, I don't care. Grow, 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 grow. I go to spring training 2004 because I was applying for a visa to work in the United States post-graduation, and I wrote a fake letter to the Montreal Expos, my favorite baseball team, their final season, saying that I had been assigned to cover spring training for them. I made it up. And so they gave me a press pass. And so I spent the week in Melbourne, Florida, or Melbourne, Florida, Melbourne, Australia, Melbourne, Florida, and I went to Space Coast Stadium. There was no media covering them, and they gave me all access. And so I'm in the locker room, and Frank Robinson, may he rest in peace, the Hall of Famer. You know Frank Robinson?
Former Baltimore Oriole, right?
That's right.
Yep.
Sees me in the locker room. He was the manager of the Expos and goes, son, you need a haircut. Next day, I went to a strip mall, shaved my head, and I haven't had it long ever since. So I'm pretty proud of that
What
story.
I took the point of this story
Yes.
was that, kids, if you want to get ahead in your career,
So you know what's so
just,
funny?
just lie like Helwani.
So
and
it's
you'll
so
get
funny.
I did
the
lie.
first time, you know what? To pick up on your lying and deceit, I
Yes.
did the same thing.
Okay.
My first real major gig in Washington, D.C., May of 2007 at the D.C. Armory was the ever first full pro MMA show. And I'd interviewed the guy once it was announced that he was going to do it. And I was like, hey, who's your commentary crew? He's like, oh, I don't really have one yet. And there was like a thing that went off in my brain. Even though I had literally never done commentary for anything in my life, I was like, oh, I could do that, which is unprofessional and a lie.
That's how more Ronaldo's wrestling career
He
started.
gave me the
That's-
job. He gave me the job, and then I met one of the guys who was the host of this famous morning show. He introduced me to the radio station. Then they gave me a job, and then it was off to the races from
Wow.
there. So lying is actually what you want to do.
In the words of the late, great Eddie Guerrero,
Yes. lying in bed just like Brian Wilson did. Yes.
No.
What was it, light
no.
sheet and steel?
Yeah, you know, he's always been a closet wrestling fan.
Very-
You know that?
very
Like the
closet-y,
fact,
yeah.
how did he know that?
Some would say the closet.
So
yes.
wasn't the anniversary of his death recent?
Yes.
So there was a bunch
How did you know that?
Okay, because my Twitter feed is full of you animals.
Right,
still
right,
in. I
right.
mean, obviously,
Luke's always like, Chris Benoit, probably a good dad. I'm like, look.
Oh, come on, man. Come on. Why?
all right, Osama bin Campbell, you strike again. Are we
Today in Great
Are
Canadians-
we check cashing whores for taking this job? What are we?
Oh,
A little bit,
What is
right?
he? What is he though?
By
He's
the way,
You are a check
by the way,
cashing whore.
no, I have a new name. I'm actually going to sell the shirt. Showtime Helwani. That's what I am. I am Showtime Helwani. I will talk to you. You want to talk about Dexter? Do you want to talk about championship boxing?
Yeah.
Bellator's got a great card coming up in Dublin in February. I mean, what do you want to talk about? I mean, Showtime is the premium
What
network.
do we say to the fans who can't believe we are here?
I feel like they could believe I am here because, I mean, I was the one.
Showtime Showani.
Yeah, I mean, I was the one saying CM Punk was a great idea.
Yeah.
You were the one who wasn't a fan of that stuff.
It didn't go so well.
If anyone's like a fish out of water here, it's probably you.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Like when I saw you sitting with Logan Paul before the Floyd Mayweather thing, I was like,
Yeah, I
man,
had an
I would love to
existential
know.
crisis,
I would
yeah.
love to know what you are thinking right now.
Well, so I'll tell you what I was thinking. One was, okay, I mean, I'm in Florida. COVID was down at the time.
Right.
You know, it's hard to complain.
Right, of course.
But this is why I keep harping back. This is why my line of questioning is the same. It's like, dude, on some level, listen, Jake Paul turns out to be a more impressive person than I gave him credit. Fair enough. But on some level, dude, the fights need to be better than they've been. That's why I keep going back to it. It's like,
Better,
dude,
you mean more action,
more action.
adventure.
I'm not
more
expecting
just
you to be Giorgio Petrosian. I'm not expecting you
less
to be
boxy, more fighty.
But yeah, come on, guys. Fucking, you've talked everything you could possibly say. If you really want me to buy in,
but there's been two, right? There's been Logan Floyd and Jake Tyron on Showtime.
Yes, that's
Right?
right. And then, but the Askren
What did you
thing,
expect from Logan Floyd? I pretty much
I
expected
expected
that.
Floyd to tune him up more than anything.
Really?
We had
Yeah.
that debate after. Was it responsible?
Dude,
was
even
Floyd responsible
Floyd-
to go for it, knowing how overmatched that
Even
was?
Floyd afterwards was like, I'm done with fighting and I might be done with this. I don't think he felt like that was the best
Sure.
presentation.
I'm actually really surprised at how much you disliked the first Woodley fight. I found it to be interesting theater. Now,
man.
I will say this: if this second fight plays out the exact same way, I'll be like, all right, come on.
All right, so let me tell you something. I was going to save it for a video I'm doing, but I'll do it here
Oh.
since it's a
Oh,
special
wow.
occasion.
Wow,
It's
this
like,
is
it's
good.
like
No.
bringing out the good
No,
whiskey.
no, no.
right?
For example, I did. You listen. The last thing I was going to say was, if you look at the tape on them, and again, you want to be a little bit careful with it because they don't have a ton of experience. But for example, here's one thing: go back and watch the first fight. Jake Paul cannot create offense moving to his right. He can only move one direction
He's
to
also
create
a
offense.
novice.
That's what I'm saying.
Right.
Okay, fine. I'm not expecting him to be Bud Crawford. But you're asking me like about the fight, am I enjoying it? It's a little hard to watch when the offense only comes in one direction. And so if that's the one thing you do, you got to do it to a level where you begin to put the stamp on him. And because Tyron was limited and Jake was limited, it ended up being limited.
Well, it
and I'm
ended up
saying
being
that you
where we
got to
needed
hit
more rounds. They
You
went 8
got to
rounds
hit
because of their
another gear.
experience,
You got to
but-
hit another gear for this.
I guess it all depends on your expectations, right? Like when I'm going into, I don't know, Oliveira Poirier, for example. Like I know that's high level, right? When I'm going into a Devin Haney or a Tank Davis fight, like I know I'm going to see high level.
He's
When I'm
saying
going,
don't expect, elite food at a gas station.
Well, no, no, no.
He's saying.
Yeah, but if I go to
Don't
the gas station, it still has to be salty. Still has to be sweet.
listen, when I go to say PF Chang's, I know I'm getting PF Chang's. You know what I'm saying? I'm just saying. But if I want to get,
not
5-star
gonna be a part of
cuisine,
this. I'm
no,
not
I'm just
gonna-
saying. Like I know what I'm getting, and so when I go to a Jake
I've
Paul
never even
fight,
been to PF Chang's, Ariel Helwani.
I know what I'm getting. That's all I'm trying to say.
Chicken should
It's the
not be
first.
orange,
It's the
yes.
first thing that came to mind. That's the truth,
All
though.
right, prediction
That's.
time. I want to ask you who wins or
I was
loses.
being serious.
Does this one go the distance? That's the only thing I think you can really
Yeah,
lay a claim to.
I think so.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Things goes. What do you think? What about you?
I don't think it goes the distance.
Ooh, where do you think it stops?
I think that it's obviously going to be up to Tyron to make the fight, but even if he doesn't, I think we're going to see a Jake more willing to leave a mark. You can't have two decisions over Tyron Woodley. You got to leave that statement.
Yeah, I think
so
that's
I
right.
think Jake is going to handle some adversity like in the first fight, but just respond better than the first fight and tilt it back at Tyron and go, okay, I want to find out at this age if you're really willing to be in the deep end with me. We all think, oh, what happens if Jake gets in the deep end? But what happens if Tyron gets in a war? We'll see some of that reckless Vicente Luque theater come out, and I think Jake is more apt to get a finish if they're both going after
They
it.
should clip this off. Put this on All Access right there.
Yeah, I
that's
mean,
a good
that's-
sell job.
We have to go. I'm getting
Okay,
the signal to
okay,
call it
okay,
a day.
okay, sorry.
Big drinker over here, Ariel
Yeah.
Helwani.
Still
Anything you
hasn't
wanna
arrived.
plug? We don't talk enough about you, huh? Not enough attention on
I'm
Ariel.
good. I'm good. I'm happy to be here. Happy to be on the award-winning.
You calling the fight again as well?
I am doing the post-fight interviews and the locker room interviews this time.
Ooh, okay.
So
Change it up
a
a
little
little bit.
change up, which I'm excited about. I like the tension in the locker room, so I can't
I was
wait.
gonna say last night in the locker room, I did them a couple times for Glory.
Yeah.
I hated doing them
Oh.
because I felt so bad for the fighter who's like kind of
Yeah,
dialed
yeah,
in, and then someone has to pull them over
Yeah,
to you.
yeah, yeah.
It's
I
part of
didn't
the
like
job.
that
Hey,
part.
Popovich is part of the job.
It might have been
Yeah.
they were just not happy to talk to you.
Could have been that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've never actually done the locker room because when I
Fighters
did,
love you in general, huh?
Look,
they
you-
do love me, of
You've
course.
known Luke a long time. There's
Yeah.
been a long run in his career of agony, pain, upset, anger. Then he meets BC, and it's kind
Everything's
of
changed.
Just going.
Everything's changed.
You know,
I think you're the best thing to ever happen to Luke. Very,
He
very.
did give me lice. There is. We did.
Is that true?
Yeah, he gave me lice.
What?
No, Jesus.
Oh, okay. Jesus. I was
He's,
gonna
he's
say.
barely
It's
housebroken.
like,
I mean,
I didn't know you guys
He will shit on the floor.
shared a
for
bed.
that. In all seriousness, thanks for stopping
Great to be
by.
here. Yeah. Congrats on the success. Congrats on
Right back at
everything.
you. I
Same
hope
back, same
you win
to
it
you.
for a
And
12th consecutive year, unless they nominate one of us, and then
That would be
then we're
fun.
coming for
In
that
which
ass,
case,
all
fuck
right?
That'd
your
be fun.
life.
Yeah.
And also the check for this appearance just to my LLC for tax purposes. That would be appreciated.
I bet it will happen that way. All right. Well, that's it for us. That's your pregame preview.
Can we get you in a drug rug by any chance?
I don't know what that is.
Leave it that way.
Okay.
That's
I hope
right.
this outrates the Chuck Mindenhall episode. That
We'll
was
have to
bad.
see. We'll
that
have
was
to see.
that was not good.
The last one did okay.
You ever seen him
No,
with his
I
head
don't.
off? It's a lot.
It's
like,
weird.
yeah,
It's weird.
like
It's
a-
Darth
Santa without
Darth
the-
Vader when he
yeah,
takes
yeah.
the
Episode
mask.
I love
6,
Chuck.
yeah.
I'm kidding.
All right, so shouts to Chuck. Thanks to y'all who watched. Thumbs up on the video. Hit subscribe. That's Brian Campbell. That's Ariel Helwani. I'm Luke Thomas. Until next time, enjoy the fights.